Okay, thank you so much for coming today. We really appreciate you making the time. I know everybody's schedule is really, really busy, and this is an awesome turnout, so we so very much appreciate that. We are honored to have MPP Sylvia Jones, Minister of Health, Deputy Premier, so we're very fortunate to have her. Thank you for making the time. And we also have the fabulous Feed Ontario CEO of Feed Ontario, Carolyn Stewart. So that is fantastic. So I will step off. I will let Carolyn do her thing, and then I'll do my thing.
Okay, perfect. And welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you to MPP Jones for joining us, and for all the local representatives in the room who are here to learn a little bit more about the incredible work that the Orangeville Food Bank does, but also the incredible need we are seeing here in the province of Ontario. So September is Hunger Action Month. I think it's really important that we emphasize that's why we're here today, because it's time to take action on hunger. For the 8th consecutive year here in Ontario, we have seen exponential food bank growth. And unfortunately, we have reached a high water mark of 1 million people accessing our services over 7.6 million times in the last year. This is double the amount of food banks double the amount of people who access food banks just 4 years ago. That's 25% increase in a single year, 134% increase in just 4 years. And sometimes, you know, I keep saying to people, I've been with the organization almost 15 years, and that number I still cannot wrap my head around. I never thought we would ever be in a position where 1 million people were in need of food assistance in Ontario. That things would have gotten so bad that we would have had to meet that sort of demand head on. And what I think is really important to remember is that they're not statistics, they're people. They're our neighbors, they're our colleagues, they are children in a classroom, they are someone who took the bus with you this morning, they are our seniors. And so we have to remember that it's people who are walking through our doors and people who are looking for assistance, not just numbers. So for us, and I'm sure it is, the number is incredibly troubling, and we think it should be for everyone, but also for the government as well. I think obviously it's important to understand why are we seeing this increase. Firstly, we think there's a number of key drivers that are really helping to grow this number. So firstly, I think we can all say there is a housing crisis here in Ontario. Access to affordable and supportive housing is key to income and food security. And so with population growth we're seeing, with the surging affordability crisis, access to housing becomes vitally important when people are having to make impossible decisions between something like keeping a roof over their head and buying food. We know that income is not keeping up with today's cost of living, so we are seeing an ever-changing job market here in the province. And so we are creating jobs, which is great, but we want to make sure that they're the right kind of jobs. Are they jobs that come with benefits? Are they, do they have proper supports for them? Are they paying a livable wage? You know, 1 in 10 workers in the province is a gig worker, and I know for folks across the province, they're seeing many people who have 2 and 3 job gig employments and are still not making ends meet. So we have to make sure that those jobs that are driving food bank use are changed. And obviously Ontario's social support programs, both OW and ODSP, are drastically underfunded. And it's important to note that this is not a short-term issue. This has been decades of underfunding to the program. You know, it was intended, you know, OW is intended as a temporary measure for people to temporarily go on and get back on their feet. But because the rate is so low, people are getting into deeper levels of poverty and can't get back on their feet so quickly. So we want the program to do it to help to make sure that people can get back to work and do exactly what they're hoping for. So these compounding problems, and then we had a pandemic, and now we're having an affordability crisis, and inflation surge. All of these have really created a perfect storm that have left Ontarians struggling to get by, and let alone get ahead. And so, you know, food banks are working so hard to meet this demand head on. I asked Heather and all of her incredible team here, and many of our food banks who are in the ring today, they are doing what they can to meet this demand what's important to remember is that they were not intended as a social safety net. They were intended as an emergency measure to an emergency. So they're supposed to provide food today, not food every day, and not food long-term to people in need. It was supposed to be temporary. And so, 70% of our food banks are right now reporting struggling to keep their shelves stocked, and 50% are reporting struggling to meet funding targets so that they can keep their doors open. So what our biggest fear and what keeps me up at night is that, a study that came out of McMaster 2 years ago said that food banks are the last line of defense against homelessness. So we're talking about 1 million people who go to food banks that if we close our doors could potentially be unhoused. And so it is it's taking my breath away to even talk about it. But it's these concerns that we are trying to urgently get people to hear our calls, that something needs to change the tide now so that we don't get to that position. And so these are why we have these conversations. We want to make sure that people understand that there's no silver bullet to food insecurity and poverty. There's no quick answer. It is everyone's responsibility to contribute to this. Social policy advocates, community organizations, all levels of government have a role to play in making this change happen. And it's not something that can happen quickly, so we all need to be in it together. I obviously went off script, so my team is gonna, so apologies, my team's gonna kill me. With that, we made 3 key kind of broad call recommendations. So continuing to try and meet those affordable housing building targets as outlined in the National Housing Strategy, even surpassing them. So focus on building and making sure that housing is accessible for individuals, raising social assistance rates. This government did great work with the 5% increase that we saw to ODSP and tying to inflation. Let's see the same thing for Ontario Works and helping to make sure that we're modernizing the program. On top of that, jobs. We want to make sure, as I said, to focus on quality jobs. So making sure that they have benefits, proper pay, even something as simple as a sick day can go a very long way in helping someone be food insecure. If someone misses a shift to stay home with their sick child, they're not making rent. That's the position many people are here in Ontario are in right now. So making sure that we have quality jobs with a livable wage, we're paid equal pay for equal work, paid sick days, all of those things can really help to turn the tide on what we're seeing here in Ontario. And so, I think the one thing that I'll say is, no one would ever call me an optimist, but I will say I'm hopeful because I think we know that change is possible. We know how to make change. We know what works. We know what doesn't work. We know that it requires everyone to be involved, that everyone needs to be committed to reducing food insecurity and poverty for us to see change. And so it's time for all of us to prioritize poverty reduction and really bring that 1 million people down.
So Sylvia, would you like to go? Sure. Okay. Yep, come. And then I'll follow up, and I'll make you cry. So get tissues in.
So thank you, Heather. I do see that there are other municipal leaders in the room. Guy House, of course, Lisa Post, and I did see Len with the famous orange shirt. Okay, there's a whole bunch. Just stand up if you're a municipal leader. Caroline, thank you. I think you clearly articulated that this is going to take an all-of-government, all-of-community approach. Welcome to the Orangeville Food Bank. I will selfishly say, I think that they have been true innovative leaders for many, many years. And the fact that Feed Ontario has chosen to come to Orangeville and the Orangeville Food Bank just speaks to what I believe is we have some very creative thinkers here in Dufferin Caledon. Now, you made reference to a couple of issues. Thank you for highlighting them. Depoliticizing and tapping time cost of living increases so that we don't have this constant debate every year about what the percentage increase should be. It's tied now to cost of living. You made reference to the 5%, and that's an example of that. The gig worker economy. You know, we've done stuff in the Ministry of Labor very specifically to say, how do those gig workers ensure that they have benefits and in some cases pensions that can move to multiple employers. So that work is ongoing, and it's really exciting to see, as we see a changing work environment and economy, how the policies also need to catch up. So I think that's an important piece that, again, all of government will do. You know, Lisa, many of us just came back from Ottawa a couple of weeks ago, Association of Municipalities of Ontario. I can absolutely assure you that everybody is talking about access and housing. So to suggest that we as municipal, provincial, federal leaders are not seized with that topic, we absolutely are. As in many cases, different communities are approaching it in different ways. But again, I think that you have in Dufferin County a municipal leadership that is very motivated to ensure that they can see those changes happening. And they will take provincial input. There will be hopefully some federal input, and of course municipal from a zoning standpoint. So I want everyone to know that as the MPP for Dufferin-Caledon, I often talk about the innovation that has always been the cornerstone of Orangeville Food Bank. Even a very recent change that happened, bringing all of the food banks in Dufferin County together to make sure that those assets can be leveraged. And again, I'm just going to close with huge thank you to the volunteers. You know, none of this happens without engaged individuals who step up and want to make a difference in their community. So thank you for that participation. Thank you for that ongoing engagement, and of course for your advocacy. Stay well.
Tissue's ready? Done. So you know who I am. Municipal leaders have heard me speak a couple of times this week. County staff has heard me speak a couple of times. They've only cursed 3 times in 5 days, which I think is really good as a 56-year-old menopausal woman working in food insecurity. So I want to thank all of the councillors and municipal representatives, and we also have the new executive director of the OHT here. We have Dave. We have the paramedics here. We also have housing here. We have the new Christine James. And then we also have Brenda Wagner as well as Carol from housing. And then I've got food banks here today. I've got Grand Valley here today. I've got 3 members with Fergus. I also have Alliston Food Bank here. And pardon me? Georgetown, sorry, I apologize. Which is fantastic. So I appreciate you all taking the time because this affects all of us. So instead of talking to you about all my things here, I want to talk to you about yesterday. So I seldom get a chance to get out of my office anymore. In fact, staff give me a hard time if I play in operations because I screw it up every time. And if you want somebody to make an exception, call me. I'm the person you'll find in the food bank who will make that exception for you. The softest touch. So I don't get a chance to get out. So yesterday, we were a little short-handed, so I thought, I'll fill a delivery, that's what I'll do. So I took a shopping cart around and looked at the person's shopping list and that sort of thing. The person had 70 points to spend. I know this person, we've known this person for a long time, housebound, really struggles medically. And I hate shopping at the best. No, I love grocery shopping. I do it any place I go, but here I hate it because I don't know what it is that you like, right? I'm a shredded wheat kind of gal, always have been, always will be, with the exception of a box of Count Chocula at this time of year. Best cereal ever. But I don't know what kind of cereal you like, right? It's hard to pick, right? I don't know if you like mushroom soup or chicken noodle. So I'm shopping and doing my thing. At the end of the shop, I was only able to spend 28 of the 70 points. Because I didn't have it to give. I had not a box of cereal in the food bank, not one. And at that point, my staff went out and purchased it on their own money. God knows I don't pay them enough to buy money or buy food for the food bank. It was that dire. I had staff in my office crying. And we were in there, we were talking about this, and I actually had to ask my staff to leave because I was gutted that we couldn't support this person any better than we had. And so I asked them to leave, and if you know me, I have a passion for disco. So I cranked up the disco music and tried to center myself. I shed a few tears. And then I did something I don't normally do and haven't done in 9 years. I sent out an email that was a plea for help. I said, I said, I've never done this. I've always been thoughtful in how I send things out. We have plans, we're food banks, so we have the Thanksgiving campaign, the Easter campaign, Christmas, and that sort of thing. But I blew it yesterday, and I just sent stuff out because I couldn't believe how little we had. Last month, 143% more food went out the front door than came in the back door. The need is outstripping us at this point. 38% growth year over year. And if you were to look at June of 2020 to June of 2024, that increase is 176%. And we're not killing food insecurity. I appreciate the kudos for the things we do. You know I have the best staff and the best volunteers that make all of this possible, but we're not killing it. I'm giving 36 pounds of food away a month per person. What is that? Like, that's not even anything. And you don't get to choose, right? Like, I love my husband to death, but if I were to put no-name craft dinner in front of him, which is so privileged, that he would choose, we have a choice like that, or lentils, my husband would get up and leave and go find something else, right? Like, we have choice. I have choice. So many people that come to visit us don't have that choice. And so, I don't know, it's been 9 years since I started this job, the longest job I've ever had, by the way, because normally I switch around, but my passion is so strong for this that I don't know how to ring any more alarm bells than we're already ringing. I almost thought about getting our bell out for CNOY and dingling that. I tried to think of everything this morning when I was walking my dog, because I don't know what can be done to make people listen. But we won't be able to keep this up. Okay, so I'm pleading to all leaders. We can't do this. We can't. Fergus can't do it. Georgetown can't do it. Alliston can't do it. Grand Valley can't do it. We're going to crumble. And if we crumble, who picks up the pieces? And the other thing is, we can continue to pour more money into food banks because County Council brought it up last night. If we give you more money, you're going to come back next year and you're going to ask me for more money. And it's just an endless seam of money that we're throwing at this. What we really need is policy change. And we need housing. I joked we need all of the housings. All of the housings. We need single housing and family housing and seniors housing, and it has to be affordable. And we have to do it now, not 3 to 5 years. I watched a documentary about Disney, and they have a job there, an Imagineer. They get paid to imagine for Disney. I know, right? Where was that job? And I thought, that's what we need. Maybe for the county, maybe for the province. We need a chief housing Imagineer. Somebody who can imagine all of the housing and find those partnerships to get shovels in the ground and get it done. And so Carolyn says she's not an optimist. Anybody who knows me knows that I am, right? I'm sunshine and lollipops. You want somebody to sing you a song, call me at 5, I'm your gal. And so I am. There is no problem so great that it cannot be solved. And that is Barbara Coloroso from parenting all those years ago. And so I think this is solvable too. And what gives me hope is prior to the pandemic, if you'd asked us in January or February, we wouldn't have been able, in 2020, we wouldn't have been able to say that we could change. Remember? Oh no, can't do that online. No, you can't work from home. Can't do that. And people ask me, how come you can't do a drive-through? Oh no, definitely couldn't do that. In 1 week, in calling the pandemic, we did a complete 180. Alrighty, we're gonna do all the things now. And one of the greatest things that we saw was the pandemic hit. And I remember calling my board, side note, squirrel. I remember in December, I called my board chair and I said, I think there's something going on over in China. I wonder if we should be paying attention to that. And they suggested I was being a drama queen. Anyways, and then we fast forward to March. Anyways, but we had already been making plans. We knew something was going to change and it was coming at us. And we made the plans. We saw 880 some odd people in that March. But if you follow the line of our intakes and that sort of thing, it dropped off. And we dropped 15% between March of 2020 to March of 2021 because the income supports were there. Okay, and it was $2,000 a month. It wasn't, we weren't killing it, but we were doing decent. So it's doable. All of this is doable. In not 3 years of policy and you know, we gotta think about the plan. What's the plan look like? Hey, can we have a meeting, Dave? I love to have a meeting. But it's doable. It's all possible. There's no problems with grid that cannot be solved, and we can do this. So I am incredibly optimistic. So I support a call for additional housing. I support a call for a living wage. We are now a living wage employer. It's not that hard. Daniela, what was it, half an hour on the computer? Yeah, exactly. And then increases to social assistance rates. So to quote Theodore Roosevelt, this country will not be a permanently good place for any of us to live until we make it a reasonably good place for all of us to live. So we need to change because food should be a right and not a privilege. And right now it is a privilege that more than 1 million Ontarians cannot afford. And that's not okay. But we can do this together, and I'm all in, okay? You need something, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna fix this problem. Okay, if you need policy suggestions, put me at the table. I'm your girl. Fine. People make better decisions on a sugar high. So thank you so much for coming. I'm gonna turn this over to the fabulous Carrie Ann, and she is going to direct us as to where we're going next, unless you have questions. And if you ask me, if somebody asks me, if people are scamming the system, it's not Throat Punch Thursday, but I'll make an exception. Okay? I don't want to hear it.
Do you want to touch on the pasta?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Good point. Yeah, Karen, see, she's brilliant like that. Squirrel. So one of the things I wanted to highlight, do you remember years ago when I told you about my problem with dried pasta? I used to have so much dried pasta that I actually thought there was a problem in the reproductive cycle of dried pasta. Something happened when we turned the lights off at night and it was bad. When we came in the morning, we had more. We had so much at one point that we shipped it to Thunder Bay. We shipped it to Volker. We shipped a whole truck up to Thunder Bay of dried pasta. And I used to say I could solve the housing crisis with the glue gun and the macaroni that I had. This is it. This box, if I'm not mistaken, is kind of empty, but this is all I have in the food bank right now. We've never, in 9 years, there's never ever been a problem. We've always had an extra bazillion rows of dried pasta. But even that, the thing, I remember a single mom coming in and saying to me, I am so thankful for the food, thank you so very much. And she looked at me and hesitated for a second and said, but do you have anything else that isn't red? I can't convince my kids to eat one more red thing because red is inexpensive, right? Red is chili and pasta and all of those things, super inexpensive. Yeah, and we found a jar of Alfredo, but she said, and I'm not trying to be ungrateful, it's just they've eaten red for a very, very long time. So, yeah, so that's our pasta thing. So thank you so much for pointing that out, okay? Anyways, thanks so much, guys. I'll turn it over to the fabulous Carrie Ann.